Oh, hey everybody, how's it going? Ryan here from the cave. Day 2 of our at-home workout series. Yesterday we focused a lot on the lats, the back, pulling. Today we're going to switch gears, pushing, pressing. We're going to focus a little bit more on the chest. So it's going to be a lot of pressing movements. We're going to use our body weight to press off the ground. Some variations, a few variations on push-up exercises. The material you'll need, stuff at home, books, if you can get a stack of them 6-8 inches, maybe a little bit higher, that's great. A backpack if you have, and just again a bunch of heavy stuff to load it in there so you got a little bit of weight, maybe 15-20 pounds. That's all you'll really need. Let's go. Okay, so the chest, the pec muscle group, it's protagonist, antagonist to the lats. So the lats do a lot of work connecting from your arms, stretching down your back to pull the chest. On the opposite side of the arm, it attaches in the front here, and it stretches out through your rib cage, and it allows you to push, to press. So everything through here, through the bottom, there's a lot of pec muscle grouping coming from here, and as you come up your chest, even up into here. The second you get a little bit higher, that becomes deltoid, but basically from here downward, that's all chest. So it allows you to push straight out. That engages a lot of the chest. If you're pushing from here, a little bit more focused on downwards, that's going to engage a little bit of the bottom of the chest. If you're pressing from here, a little bit more upwards, that's going to engage a little bit more through the top of the chest. Let's talk a little bit about how the chest works when we press, when we do a couple push-ups. Okay, standard push-up. So with a standard push-up, there's a couple things you want to focus on, and there's a couple things you want to try to avoid. Things you want to focus on: staying nice and stable through your whole body. Through your hip flexors, your core, your legs, everything's got to remain nice and stable. You want to have a little bit of width in your feet. Your feet need to be about hip width, and you got to focus on where you're pressing from. If you allow your hands to come a little lower and your elbows to come in closer to your body, that's going to be a little bit more the bottom of the chest and the triceps. If your elbows and your hands come up and out, away from the center of your body, that's going to be a little bit less triceps, a little more the top of your chest, and a little bit more deltoids. And if you kind of go in between the two, you can split the difference between the deltoids, the triceps, and you can hit the majority of the chest. Kind of just looking like this from the front, kind of just looking like this from the side, okay? We're not getting too high with our hands, and we're not getting too low with our hands. So we're kind of splitting the difference between the two to hit the entire chest. Things you want to kind of avoid: don't get your feet too narrow. Some people allow their feet to end up right beside each other, and it makes you feel a little bit less stable. So try to keep your feet about hip width apart. And some people have a hard time keeping their body tense. They allow their hips to kind of sag down low, or their butt ends up really, really high in the movement. If your hips are kind of low, you're not going to be able to get your chest down to the ground because your hips run into the ground. So keep your hips up so you can get that chest all the way down, and make sure you don't come too high with your butt pressing like this, because then it turns into a little bit more of a shoulder press kind of movement. Okay, that's your standard push-up. Standard push-up versus a modified push-up. A modified push-up is simply when you're building the strength to get to a standard push-up. Traditionally, it's known as a girl push-up. It's a modified push-up. There's no girl push-ups. Modified just means you don't have the strength yet in your chest and your arms to go the whole length of your body. So rather than going off of your feet, you just go off of your knees. Those knees go about hip width apart. Everything else works exactly the same from the side. It simply looks like this. Body's in the same position. Pay attention to your hand placement, and you come down to here, right back up to here, as opposed to from your feet. You're just going from the knees. That's your modified push-up. Okay, plank to push-up. That's the next push-up variation I'll show you guys. So standard plank, low plank, with your forearms like this. Kind of in this position, keeping your body nice and stable. Great exercise for your core. That's a standard plank, but we can go from a plank into a push-up. Now you can choose to do whichever way you want. You can start left hand, followed by the right hand, and then back down to a plank, or you can go right hand followed by the left hand. This is a great exercise because it allows you to push from a bit of a different angle. It's very active for your core, because no matter how you do it, your body's going to be kind of turning a little bit left to right. So it looks from the front a little bit like this. You start in that plank and you move from here up into a push-up and then right back down. From the side, you're going to again start in that plank position, and from here, one hand up, press up, and then that arm down, settle back into a plank. Something you want to really avoid when you're doing your plank push-up, make sure your feet stay hip width, because if your feet get a little bit narrower than that, when you go to get into your push, it's going to feel pretty unstable. So keep your feet about hip width. That's your plank to push-up. Okay, the next one we'll talk about is alternating push-ups. You need a stack of books, enough books so that you can build a stack about 6 or 8 inches. All you're trying to do is make sure you can change the level of the floor, because one hand is going to be pressing on the books, other hand is going to be pressing into the ground. Very important for this exercise, make sure you're pressing straight down. Don't allow yourself to think at all outwards, because this hand could slide right off the top of the books and you could do a face plant into the ground. So really make sure you're thinking about pressing down. All you do is put one hand on top of the books, the other hand goes on the ground. This can be great in 2 different ways. This can help you bridge from a modified push-up into a standard push-up. This distance that the books gives you really forces you to not be able to go quite as deep. So you can bridge from a modified push-up into a standard push-up by practicing this movement. As you can see, this hand doesn't allow me to go quite as deep from here. I can press back up. I can use that to help me build my strength so that eventually I can do a full standard push-up. It's also good in terms of overloading. You can overload this hand, think more about pressing with this hand, and use this one to add a little bit of stability. So if I'm thinking of it that way, this hand really takes a lot of the weight. This one just assists. So at the bottom, I'm thinking about getting to here, and my left hand does the majority of the work to press me back up to the top. So you can think about alternating push-ups in 2 different ways. Obviously, a set for one side, however many reps you decide. You can switch, do the same on the other side, so you keep that balance between both sides of your chest. That's alternating push-ups. Okay, eventually you might get to the point where you want to do weighted push-ups. Maybe you're starting with modified push-ups and you're working your way up to a standard push-ups. Maybe you're incorporating plank push-ups, alternating push-ups, but maybe you just need it to be a lot heavier. Some people are good with 10, 15 push-ups. Some people that are on the higher end of strength, they can do 40, 50, 80 push-ups. So maybe you need to get your backpack loaded up with as many heavy things as you can. My backpack, I can probably only put about 10 or 15 pounds of stuff in here. Or maybe you got a great backpack, you can throw 40, 50 pounds in there. All you want to do is throw it on. Make sure it's on nice and tight. We don't want it flopping around all over the place. Get yourself into your standard push-up position, and maybe before when I could do a whole bunch, maybe now I can only do about 15 or 20 because of that extra weight that's on my back. Same mechanics, pretty much same everything as a standard push-up, but now you got more weight on your back. A great thing with weighted push-ups too, you can do this with alternating push-ups. You can do this with plank push-ups, just to give yourself a little bit more variation. So that's the weighted push-up. Hey everybody, okay, that wraps up our push-up progression. So now you can take that push-up workout and some of those progressions that we talk about, and you can combine that with last episode when we were talking a lot about pulling. The lats with the pecs, they kind of work protagonist, antagonist towards each other, so you can build that into your own at-home workout routine. Next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about legs. A lot of climbers don't like to train legs very much, but it is actually very important. So we're going to talk a bit of a progression in terms of leg training. We're going to talk about squats, good mechanics, the functions of how a squat should work. We're going to try to progress a little bit into the idea of a pistol squat. It can be very effective, very efficient if you do it the right way. So that'll be for our next episode. Until then, share below if you can. Give some other people some ideas of what you kind of do at home for your different type of workout routines. This one kind of push-up focused. And we'll see you next episode when we talk about squats and legs.